Hi, welcome to the channel. Today's video is titled Jojo Brown says Tyler Perry is anti-masculine, tears down straight black men and calls him poison. Okay, we are going to check this video together, and I love your thoughts and your contribution in the comments below. Let's dive right in.
Tyler Perry, how you feel about the recent lawsuit filed against him for sexual assault?
I referred to the Hollywood industry and the casting couch with the 7 Bs. Remember, unbelt, drop britches, drop boxes, bend over. See, that's a reality in that trade. So with the feminist movement, everybody is concerned about the heterosexual casting couch, but not the homosexual casting couch. So that is a reality. You saw Ellen DeGeneres. I experienced being asked to go boost her pathetic ratings and appear on her show and watched what she did around on her set. So, yeah, I can understand how that stuff comes out. And it is a reality in what's going on. And if you listen to what Tyler Perry does, he's essentially anti-masculine. He downs straight men, particularly straight black men, at every opportunity in his productions. And if you watch some of his stuff, check out some of his things. What's the one with I'm Black or something like that, where the guy is dying of some fatal disease and he runs this cosmetic firm, and his brother came up with the formula. The brother had problems with it, but the guy that made the money for the family didn't care about the fact that it was carcinogenic and would kill people. So now that guy is trying to be gay, so he gets this plain woman who was a stripper, and he starts making her friend, and he sets it up so she becomes the person that helps run the company rather. So Tyler Perry's favorite subject is bad-mouthing straight men, especially black straight men, and making them look like villains. Meanwhile, somebody gay comes in and helps out somebody that's a plain Jane girl or foolish woman, and they prosper in the end. That's what he does. So when you look at his art, do you ask, does it mirror his reality? And if somebody's got a fetish style taste for something, is that what he's prone to do to take advantage of a situation? Particularly since so much of what he produces and directs has a psychological flavor of having been somebody who was an abused child or somebody in his youth got taken advantage of. So a lot of what goes wrong with this particular alt culture is that it has formed an alliance with people who are abusers of children, pedophiles, and such like. So you might expect to see fantasy reflecting reality and the opportunity to vest the same reality on somebody else being taken. Background circumstances.
So I take it you not
Word there. Word there. Because tell me why people thought or people think it is funny. Because to me, nothing is funny when a man dresses or wears a dress. It is not funny, it is not comedy, but again, it's now normalized, it is now funny. Again, the other side of the movie and the series is talking about, or the TV show is talking about, is Beauty in Black. And lots of people who must have seen it already know what it's saying or knows about this. And again, for me, I try to like not pay attention to that because I'm like, this is mostly gonna spark conversation. But truly, what George just said here is the truth. Is the truth. Word out there. Sometimes you just see some things, just sit and ask, is this just fantasy, or Or because see, with Hollywood now, you don't even know. It's not even easy, or you can't even tell what is fantasy and what is real or reality, because in their world, it's a mix of both.
A big fan of Tyler Perry. How do you feel about him personally?
I think he's poisonous.
Oh,
The worst thing we've had happen is, I know Flip Wilson used to do it. It wasn't that it wasn't done, but he institutionalized this tranny thing with Medea.
okay.
The industry pushed the hell out of that because part of their agenda
Agenda.
was to legitimate and popularize and get accepted this transvestitism. It's a sickness, but they made it normal.
Okay.
And quite frankly, the character Medea in the real world would probably be somebody that would need a really serious beatdown for the things that were normalized through the presentation.
Um,
Think about it. Oprah, too.
oh,
Roger King auditioned 350 women, and he picked Oprah. What he said candidly was he wanted a poster for, quote, ugly, stay-at-home female America. And she and her girlfriend, Gail, had been doing their thing, but the truth of the matter is, every opportunity that woman got on her show that was drafted, produced, directed, and enfranchised by Roger King was anti-masculine. Now, Roger King was an interesting guy. His father invented syndication for television. Our gang, you know, the Little Rascals, the Three Stooges, Laurel and Hardy, the old black and white movies, the old cartoons that were replayed on the kiddie shows, his dad set that up. Roger King was a 6'5" tackle of a football player who was a straight-up man who liked his Jack Daniels. Great guy. But he inherited his father's business, which was known as King World. And he set upon expanding it, and he recruited Oprah. He recruited Dr. Phil. He was the one that picked her book club stuff. He's the one that ran her business, set up on, and then he died quickly with no prior illnesses of either a cerebral hemorrhage or a massive heart attack, depending upon who you listen to. He was very much into manhood and actually asked me to talk to his daughters about why they were having problems with men. One of his daughters had married a nice guy, and the other one, who looked like a beauty queen, who since died of breast cancer, unfortunately, was saying, Judge, how come I can't find a guy to go out with who's not like one of my friend girls with a dick? You know, and you see that as a real world consequence. So he discovered Oprah, he set her up, and then before she could get the foundation, he died. Now, if you go into OWN headquarters, you see some rather peculiar looking older women who represent the consortium that acquired the financial framework for what's OWN, and they run it. Last time I went in there, somebody was trying to sell a show. I didn't want to have anything to do with it, but I did it as a favor to some people I'd worked with. I saw two young black people in there. One was a gay guy that was outdoing Michael Jackson and tipping lightly, and the other one was some young sister with her head shaved, a plaid shirt, bib overalls, and work boots. And they were down on the first floor, and everybody above that looked like they'd wear Birkenstock sandals. And I say that because that was a gag on a game show that I was a guest on. So that was a clue to something. But anyway, that's what it is. So that's part of the industry. Stedman, That's supposed to be her boyfriend. He lives out in the pool house. Okay. Every now and then you might see Stedman at a red carpet, and what you'd see would be what we were just talking about. So anyway, it is what it is. She and Tyler Perry have done a lot to wreck what was a beautiful thing with the black movement in the end of the 1960s and early 70s. She used to work as a gopher for a woman named Nettie Stowers that had a talk TV show on WSM in Nashville. Oprah was known as Miss Bad. Bad feet, bad legs, bad body, bad complexion, bad hair, and bad attitude. She had just graduated from TSU. That was in 1973. And Roger King found her a couple of years when he auditioned 350-some women to find, as he put it, a poster child for ugly stay-at-home female America. We became friends of a sort. See, what happened is I wound up being a Viacom show along with Judge Judy. And what wound up happening is we went to Paramount Television, which was Viacom, but it was top heavy with nepotism. So to get everything efficiently, CBS got assigned my show and Judge Judy's show by Viacom, and Viacom brought in Roger King, who brought in Oprah and Dr. Phil. So he had a special CBS syndicated unit with Judge Judy, Dr. Phil, Oprah Winfrey, and Judge Joe Brown. So he came to me after a few months and he said, this studio is trying to make you go away. You are their number one money maker. And do you take the stockholders? I said, I do. And that's exactly what they're telling the stockholders. I'm their number one money-making show, most profitable. And I help them stay in the black rather than the red, unlike most of the entertainment industry at the time. He said, yeah, they're trying to destroy you. He said, every time you catch up with either of them, they try to hold you back. You ever heard of that A-list, B-list, and all that other stuff? The paparazzi don't make the list. Your studios make the list. And the paparazzi and Roger King says, your studio does not have you on anybody's list, so I'm going to fix that. So in a few months, I started beating Dr. Phil regularly, and in a few more months, I started beating Oprah in the ratings regularly. So for the last 5 years, I was with CBS syndication, including 2 years after Roger King died. I was either the number one or number two syndicated show in the United States for daytime syndication. And in some areas where they played me, like in the Southeast in prime time, I was number one in that. But you never heard that. All they talked about was Oprah, who was way, way below me and Judy in the ratings, and Judge Judy, and the other one that was tied with the two of us was Wheel of Fortune. So that was an old-time game show, and Judy and I, what we did is provided guidance to the American public on what was legally appropriate, and what I did was what was appropriate in a masculine fashion. Now, Judy was a little, she's 4'6", 4'7", weighs about 80 pounds, and she had her own little issues with her and her husband, Shineland, who took over from, Mayor Koch, who ran People's Court after they revived it, when it had been under Judge Wapner for a long time. And there were all kinds of issues in that. And she was a nice Jewish mama figure for Hollywood, which had a very large contingent of Jewish participants. So they responded to that. And I was a threat because I wasn't going along with their rainbow thing, although they kept approaching me about doing PSAs for them. I said, hey, that ain't my problem. You know, you do that, but I'm not. When I first started, see, oh, I can mention this to give you some idea what the flavor's about. I hadn't had my show but a month and a half, and they had a big thing at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, well, the Statler Hilton Hotel on the intersection of Santa Monica Boulevard and Wilshire. It was a nice party. I was a bachelor. I'd got this show, it was successful, and I'm looking at all these beautiful starlets, you know, so I like to dance. I'm dancing with all these gorgeous women, and I ran into one that I kind of hit it off with, so we sat down at a table and we were talking, and she got up, went to the ladies' room. She came back, says, you know that tall guy in that gray suit? I said, yeah. He said he offered me $2,000 in cash if I'd sign a note saying you tried to feel up on me.
What?
So guess who it was? It was the CEO for the big ticket television, the entity that was doing my show. So she and I went around and tracked down all of the women I danced with, and several of them said he had offered them money, but they wouldn't take it, so we got a written statement from him. So this was November 1998. The show had started in September 1998. So they'd already tried to set up this. So I hired a beautiful black woman who had graduated from Ole Miss, and I'd been her mentor, and she incidentally became the youngest licensed lobbyist in Washington, D.C., and I hired her to be my publicist. So we set up these directors and we created a fictional woman. And my collaborators started going around to some of the Hollywood types and telling them that this woman was complaining about me trying to make moves on her. Now, simultaneously, we were filing affidavits under seal with Human Resources for big ticket television. And then subsequently with Paramount Television. So they came up with a letter from this fictional woman that she was supposedly complaining about me. So I laughed about it. I had my agent come over, my attorneys, and I had my PR person, and we went over there and stormed the meeting and said, bring over the lockbox from HR. And we opened it up and we had the affidavits and how we had set them up for this scam that they were trying to pull on us. So in 6 weeks' time, all of them were gone, and I was there for another 13 and a half years. So you just have to know how to play the game that they played. And when they got me, I wasn't 19, 20, 25 something. I was in my 50s, and I'd been a criminal court trial lawyer and a judge. And hell, I grew up in Los Angeles, and I knew some of these folk that they thought were going to help them out. And it was funny. They put on a cocktail party, and they brought in all of these LA Superior Court judges, right? So I'm supposed to be impressed. I started laughing because the conversations, to their shock, started turning around. Joe, I haven't seen you. You know him? Yeah, he recruited me to law school. Yeah, he got me financial assistance for law school. Yeah, he got me a job. So you already know him. Yeah, we go back a long way. So they're taking all my friends and these juniors that I had assisted in starting on their careers, and they were trying to get me freaked out like, oh, see all the people we know and all the influence we have. See, that's the way they play that game. And you take somebody who is a naive country bumpkin, or some kid coming out the hood, or some kid that's been doing the 7B thing to get a part, and there's a female equivalent too, and they get impressed by this kind of stuff, but somebody else might not.
Exactly.
So that's the way this industry works, and I guess that's a long way of getting around to talk about what happens in this industry. Now, I'm sure Tyler Perry is fine for what he does, and people love his work. Same thing with Oprah. She's an icon. But quite frankly, I think they have an insidious brand of mind crack that they've been purveying to various communities around this country for quite a few decades, and it hasn't done us any good. But, you know, that's First Amendment stuff, and they're entitled to do it.
See, again, thank you, George, for sharing this. Because listen, in Hollywood, there are lots of things that when you sit down, you just say to yourself, like, this is not normal. Of course, like their lifestyle, of course, is not even normal. So sometimes when you hear or see two celebrities having issues or whatsoever, especially if the both of them create the same type of music and it's the same in the movies, and this one, this what George just said there is, again, lots of us know this, but sometimes lots of us want to deny the fact that these are not real, or this does not happen, but it does. Where they sort of set them, like, how do you put it? It's a matter of game of chess. They set them up against each other to compete against each other or whatever. Try to see who is gonna stay up or who's gonna stay down. None of this is actually surprising at all. It's not. It's not surprising, but sometimes when you hear this thing, you be like, I knew this. I knew this. Because let me be honest, I mean, there is nothing funny when you see a man wearing a dress, wearing wigs, or even wearing koi shoe in a movie, and you think, oh, it's funny, and you laugh, you laugh, like, it is not funny. I'm sorry, I'm just being honest. It is not funny. Maybe it's funny to some people, but it's not funny to me. It's not. Where did masculinity go? It's just like making mockery of masculinity. And we see this on the rise where lots of in fact, if you watch an entire movie and there is no one rainbow representation in that movie, you already know that something is wrong somewhere. Something is wrong somewhere. Because I bet you in Hollywood, especially with lots of the movies we watch today, they put out there is always the rainbow representation. The alphabet mafia, the alphabet crew is always there is always a representation in the movies or in anything. Like why? The question boils down like why is the movie pushing it out? Before it used to be on the down low. I mean, it used to be there, but not as more convincing as it is now. Let me use that word. So why? And people sort of think it is funny because I mean they're trying to normalize some certain behavior or some certain things that aren't normal or shouldn't be normal. And we as society will be like, well, it's in the movie. Celebrities do this, or we see this in the movie every time. So I mean, it's normal. It's fine, but it's not. But again, thank you, George, for sharing this or for saying this because I mean, this is an eye opener for lots of people who don't understand or who don't know how the industry works. This is an eye opener. Let me know what you think. Do you have an experience in Hollywood? Not per se like a celebrity, but I mean, some people may have worked behind the scenes and stuff, may have heard things, seen things, or whatever, and maybe they sort of heard things um like maybe as a way like they weren't sure if any of this was true, but you may have come across some information like that. Let me know what you think because obviously everyone's experience in Hollywood is different, but still I believe that in Hollywood they is the same cycle, is the same over and over again. But let me know what you think. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and all that stuff. And until next time, see you in the next video.